last but certainly not least, depending on who you talk to, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They were third in the Atlantic last year at 5v5 numbers, 14th in Corsi for percentage, 8th in expected goals for percentage, 10th in scoring chances for percentage. Their 5v5 save percentage was 24th in the league at a 902. Ilya Samsonov had a really tough year. Joseph Woll was hurt. They had to play Martin Jones for a bit. It was a bit of a disaster there for Toronto in goal. Their shooting percentage at 5v5 was fourth in the league at 10.61%. So maybe there's a bit of negative regression coming there, but I mean, they have a lot of high caliber talent there. So I don't think that it's super surprising for them to be at that level. And then their power play percentage, they were 24. They had a 24% conversion rate. That was seventh in the league. And that's despite really tailing off at the end of the season. They had a stretch going into the playoffs where they just were not doing anything on the power play. Coaching staff change. I mean, they said there was going to be big change in Toronto this year. I don't think it was really that big, to be honest. No. Little disappointed with what they did in the offseason, although I do think they are improved. I don't know. What do you from an outside perspective here, Gugsy, what are your thoughts on the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of, are they better, are they worse? How are you feeling?
I actually think they're better just with the addition of Chris Tanev. I know a lot of Leafs Nation is a little upset at that contract, but man, he is such as a Canucks fan, I gotta say, when he's on the ice, you're not worried. And Canucks fans are always worried. When I'm always expecting goals to be scored against us, but when Chris Tanev was on the ice, it was relaxing. It was enjoyable. I think Leafs Nation's gonna fall in love with him. It's just the problem is sometimes he's like tied together with scotch tape and band-aids because he gets injured so much, but that's because he plays such a gritty game. He eats pucks for breakfast. If he's healthy, this team is going to go pretty far, especially in the postseason. If Chris Tanev is healthy in the postseason, man, Toronto's going to be stoked, just stoked.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I don't really even hate the Ekman-Larsson signing. Like, I know I was kind of outspoken about, like, they could have had Jacob Chychrun, they could have had whoever, but it's not terrible value. It just, the term is a little bit weird for me. And then Anthony Stolarz was one of the best 5v5 goalies last year. Actually one of the best goalies in general in terms of per 60 stats. So that's a really nice addition to have as a tandem guy with Joseph Woll. And then they lost Ilya Samsonov, Tyler Bertuzzi, TJ Brody, Ilya Lyubushkin. Those are the main guys. So I do think that they are improved, at least slightly. Left wing, they are a bit thin, losing Bertuzzi, but I think that there are some guys on the left wing that could kind of take another step in their careers for sure, to kind of make up for that lack of production. So let's go into the goaltending situation. Joseph Woll had 23 starts last year with a 907 even strength save percentage. Anthony Stolarz had 24 starts, 941 even strength save percentage. So these guys are both guys that have performed in limited time. There's a lot of concern about how neither of them have really played more than just a limited sample size in any season. So can they, I mean, I see them as like probably a straight tandem with Joseph Woll as the 1A, just because he has they're used to him. But I mean, Stolarz certainly could move in as the starter at some point. But I do see them being almost like a straight tandem, maybe 55-45. How do you see this?
No, I'd say that's perfectly said. I mean, neither of these guys have taken the lion's share of goalie starts. To make one a volume starter over the other, I don't think that's going to happen, especially since Woll has had a few injuries here and there. I'd see it as a 1A, 1B, and Stolarz breathing down Woll's neck that competition might be healthy for the both of them. So looking forward to seeing how they treat this.
Yeah, and Brad Treliving did also say publicly that they are looking at ways to try and preserve Joseph Woll and help him to kind of reduce the frequency of the injuries. They're going to be looking at the way that he trains and just the way that they deploy him. So that is interesting going forward. But it does seem like he is their preferred option, at least going into the season. Why don't you talk about scheduling quirks for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
So they got 16 back-to-backs. That's tied for first in the league. 32 off nights, tied for 7th in the league. Weeks 22 to 24 playoff schedule. 10 games, 4 off nights, whereas weeks 23 to 25, they have 12 games with 4 off nights.
Yeah, I mean, across the board, pretty nice scheduling quirks for the Leafs. First in back-to-backs, they have more off nights than they typically do. This typically isn't a huge off night team, but they're top third in the league in that. So that's certainly an interesting thing. And then playoff schedules are pretty decent as well. Like 10 games in weeks 22 to 24. It's not the best, but it's pretty decent. And then 12 games, 4 off nights, and 23 to 25. That's again not cream of the crop in that in those weeks, but they're up there. So a lot to be excited about there with the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of the way that their schedule has kind of fallen out. In terms of being a fan of the team, 16 back-to-backs, they're always at the top of the league in back-to-backs. I don't really understand why, but so I don't love that, but I do like it for fantasy purposes. Power play projection. So it's been the same 5 guys for quite a few years now. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Rielly. Pretty easy to project. There has been, Sheldon Keefe did like to, he wasn't super sold on Rielly. And I've got to be honest, I'm not super sold on him either as the power play quarterback. I don't think that Ekman-Larsson is, he could get an opportunity here, but I don't think that he's going to move the needle more than Morgan Rielly. So I think Riley's going to be the guy for a good chunk of the year. But I do have them kind of sharing time at least a little bit. They're like, because I feel like there probably will be points where they try Ekman-Larsson there. But in terms of the other 4 guys, like obviously those are going to be the 4 forwards on the power play. Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, for Ekman-Larsson, you never know what's going to happen. I'm looking at his ADP at 172.5. I'd probably give that a shot. Just stash him, see what happens. Keep an eye on training camp. I agree. Riley's been the guy on the power play for, a decade now. I don't think it's likely, but, none of us expected Ekman-Larsson to take power play one last year in Florida when they had a bit of an injury. So, who knows? Maybe coaches just really like the way he moves the puck on the power play. I'd probably pick him up around those super late rounds and just see what happens.
All right, forward projections. This will be fun. Gugsy, take us through it.
Big Poppy Auston Matthews is getting 64 goals, 46 assists, 110 points, 318 shots. And one of my favorite things about Matthews is his blocks. He got him projected for 91 blocks. That's over a block per game.
So it's actually 378 and 97.
That's a 7. Jeez.
I know, man. They're both 7s. So even better. No, it's again. I'm kind of sewering you on the font here.
That's fine. 378 shots is much better than 318. 318 is no joke either, but yeah, 378 shots and 97 points. Mitch Marner, 29 goals, 75 assists, 104 points. William Nylander, 42 goals, 52 assists, 95 points with 315 shots. John Tavares, 35 goals, 46 assists, 81 points, 292 shots, and 124 hits. Still a banger. Matthew Knies, 19 goals, 28 assists, 47 points with 170 hits. Bobby McMann, 24 goals. Oh, nice. 17 assists, 41 points with 186 hits. And Max Domi, re-signed Max Domi, going to get 14 goals, 38 assists, and 52 points.
All right, buddy. What stands out for you here?
Yeah, Matthew Knies, nearly 20 goals. Are you expecting him to play a bigger role, more ice time? this year.
Yeah, I mean, I see him at the very least getting a lengthy opportunity playing on the top line.
Yeah.
Obviously, Max Domi did get some time with Auston Matthews. It'll be interesting to see how Craig Berube plays this, just because the center depth on this team is not strong beyond Matthews and Tavares. So if Max Domi is in the third line center, you've got probably like Pontus Holmberg, which isn't fantastic, or David Kampf, who is much better as a fourth line center. But I do think when they played Domi with Matthews, that was a really nice situation.
Yeah,
And maybe load up a second line with Tavares, Nylander, Marner. Like that might be a cool thing there. But then I could see Matthews, Domi, and Nyes being a line. Like that's interesting. But yeah, I do think Matthew Nyes will get a decent opportunity, probably a little bit more ice time. And then this guy just fucking bangs, man. Like he's a big hitter. And then Bobby McMann is a guy that I see kind of moving up and down the lineup as well. The left wing position's a little bit volatile on this team. We just don't know how things are going to play out. There's a lot of guys of similar caliber, but Bobby McMann showed in limited time that he has. I mean, he's able to produce, and he had pretty nice underlying numbers. He played pretty well with Tavares and Nylander. And he hits a lot, even more than Matthew Nyes. So that's a guy that could potentially bring you a little bit of value off the waiver wire. So a guy that you should know his name at the very least. And then what are some other things I wanted to touch on? Oh yeah, John Tavares. I have him for almost point per game again. And that's maybe surprising to some, but he had the lowest shooting percentage of his career last year. There were just a lot of reasons to be excited about Tavares potentially bouncing back. Maybe the vibes are low. I don't know, because they took his captaincy away.
I think so.
We'll see.
The vibes are a little low, and they took his captaincy away, and he pissed off some people last year. He had some big cold stretches, and I'm looking at his ADP at 99.9. That's some good value. I love when players like this piss off their owners the previous year, because that's a good draft season. So I'm into Tavares.
100%, and we'll get into that when I talk about my top 3 targets. First, let's go to defense. Let's talk. So we got Morgan Rielly, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. We talked about them before. Walk me through my projections here.
Morgan Rielly got for 8 goals, 48 assists, 56 points, and 139 blocks. OEL, Canucks legend OEL is going to get 8 goals, 29 assists, and 37 points.
Canucks legend. Love to hear it. Still on the books for the Vancouver Canucks. Infamously. So Morgan Rielly, I do see him having a bit of a dip in production, just because I could see there being an opportunity for OEL on the power play, at least for a limited amount of time. But I mean, ultimately, Rielly probably is. I mean, there's a scenario where he still gets over 60 points, and that's a pretty good situation. And he also has pretty decent peripherals for a guy that is kind of known for being like a straight offensive defenseman. He hits and blocks a decent amount for someone like that. So he's a guy that you should still definitely have on your radar. Is he a guy? Do you draft Morgan Rielly frequently?
I had a good spree of him. I'm just going to see what his ADP is. Yeah, 82. I don't mind 82 ADP. I don't know if I draft him this year at that, because there's quite a few players I'd be eyeing there. I remember having him. Do you remember that one season where he started off like the first 2 months, like pretty much point per game? Do you remember that? That was like 4 seasons ago. Yeah. That was a good time. Yeah, I got a little greedy there, and I overdrafted him many years after that. So kind of sour on the guy, but no, he's talented, especially in the Bangers League. Good peripherals, good power play 1 deployment. Just I think people expect a lot more from him just because he's around such elite talent, and he's the quarterback on Toronto. So a lot of expectations on him all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and then yeah, I have Tavares as a sleeper just because people are they just think he's old and they're writing him off. But I
Yeah.
think he's got gas left in the tank. Bobby McMahon's another guy. I mentioned him before. My top three targets: John Tavares. Like his ADP in Yahoo is like right hovering around 100, whereas previous years you'd be getting him in the third, fourth round, and I think he
Yeah.
could provide you that value. Uh, and at pick 100, that's unbelievable. So if you're
Yeah.
fading centers, John Tavares is a guy that you should be jumping on in those middle to late rounds. Mitch Marner, I think, is a guy that people are a little bit lower on just because, I mean, everyone expected him to get traded. He didn't get traded. There's the contract situation, but he's a guy that I think could still get over 100 points. Doesn't have great periffs, but his Yahoo ADP is 31, and I do think that he could provide you some decent value there. In Apples and Genos leagues, he's being picked at the end of the second round, which is probably where you should go. But if you're getting him in the third, like I think a third round Mitch Marner is really nice value. And then I've got Auston Matthews on here just because I love Auston Matthews. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he could like he's gonna get over 60 goals again. Like this guy's not human. So,
It's amazing.
but yeah, his
last year
ADP.
we were all laughing. Sorry.
Yeah, and his Yahoo ADP is 4.7. So if you're getting him beyond pick 4, I think you're going to get some nice value for Auston Matthews. So that's another guy where it's like, yeah, he's right at the top, but he could be even better than that.
Totally,
so
yeah.
depending on your league, if he falls beyond those top 4 picks, I'd be jumping all over Matthews. Any other comments here? Who are there any other names you wanna target on this team?
No, I think we went through everyone. I just wanted to say about Matthews. It's funny how vibes play into drafting because last year's draft vibes weren't so good because the dude had a year previous to this last one. He was recovering from wrist injury. There was a lot of questions. He doesn't have his shot anymore. And I was able to get him in the 8th, 9th overall, sometimes 10th overall. Last year, literally, I was in 8 or 9 leagues, and Matthews was in almost all of them because vibes were so negative. Now you're not going to really get that much value, but even at 4th overall, he could, or 3rd overall, he could give you some value. He has potential to be the second best player. Do you think he still has some room to grow?
Matthews?
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's possible.
Right.
It's hard to imagine just because of how incredible he's been and how elite his goal scoring has been. Like I've literally never seen anyone score like he does. So it's hard to imagine, but I mean, yeah, he's what, 26, 27?
Yeah.
There could be something more. There could be a little more ceiling in terms of playmaking, but why would he need to do that if he's just scoring every time he's on the ice?
Yeah.
Like everyone's trying to get him the puck.
Yeah, I'm curious how Berube is going to utilize him, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun season. He's always such a fun player to watch. Even all the people who hate the Toronto Maple Leafs, just watch Matthews play. You got to respect him. He's an amazing beast of a man.
100%. I'm glad to hear you say it. Because when I say it, I just sound like a straight homer.